Hello and welcome to the TGT Stadium to join us for the first preview show of the season. Very happy, of course, to be joining you for a brand new campaign with a brand new look, another change of strip for the channel, for another different show for the first time since the channel's rebrand. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. As always with these shows, this is our members exclusive series. We get our members from our members Discord server to jump on and have a chat about the next Arsenal game, of course, which is Crystal Palace. A very interesting fixture considering the 3-0 result last season. We have managed a win there under Mikel Arteta. It did come at the end of the season before last with Gabriel Martinelli getting on the score sheet. I wonder if that will happen again. It will make someone particularly happy, I'm sure. Speaking of which, let's bring in our guests for today. First of all, it's Mr. Martinelli himself. It's Kian. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
It feels so good to be back. I'm so happy. Thanks for having me again. And let's get into it.
Pleasure. Also joined by Dan. How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Again, I'm very excited for the start of the season and hope it all goes well.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. And finally, it's the, how am I best describing him? It's the fantasy footballing podcast extraordinaire. It's King. How you doing, King? You good?
I'm good. I love the upgraded introduction of myself. Thanks, man.
See, it's new graphics and new introductions for guests. That's how it works.
Yeah.
I actually had to design those myself to make sure they were spot on. And of course, welcome everybody joining us in the chat box as well. If you would like your chance of getting on our preview shows, of course, if you look at the link tree in the video description, you can join up as a channel member and join our Discord server and get involved with all of that goodness as well. We'll kick off by kind of getting your thoughts and feelings, Kian, about how your kind of head's at the start of a brand new campaign.
To be honest with you, I've never been so excited to start a season. Obviously, I was too young for the Invincibles, but I've actually have never been so excited because we look hungry for once in going into a season. We've got some signings that are ready to play. Like obviously Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko. I'd love Vieira to be fit, but he's not yet. But yeah, I'm so excited, especially with Gabriel firing straight away. Having Gabby is always good as well. Saliba is like a new signing. I'm a bit nervous, obviously, being away to Palace for the first game on a Friday night. Obviously, they're going to be ready to go with Vieira doing what Vieira did last year. We only got a point against them last year. So yeah, that's scaring me a little bit. But no, I'm really excited to start the season. Obviously, as I said, we want to win it, but with City and Liverpool the way they are, it's always a huge ask. Top 4 has to be the minimum. But yeah, we'll wait and see. Europa League for me is what I want to win this year.
Yeah, it's another tournament, another route, of course, into the Champions League. But Crystal Palace is, Dan, our first obstacle. Is there a very different feeling going to Selhurst Park this time compared to, just 3 months ago, I think it was?
I think very much so. I think especially the first game of the season. I mean, we don't really know what to expect, but coming off such a good pre-season that we've just had, I don't think anyone can see us losing. I mean, maybe there's some fans out there, but I'm sure they're right. Yeah, it's gone through Twitter. But I've watched all the pre-season games and I went to the Emirates Cup, and we just look so ready for this league. And apart from injuries getting in the way, I just don't know how we can kind of not do well this season. But only time will tell. But for this Palace game, yeah, it's gonna be difficult because I kind of looked at their preseason and they've kind of had that average kind of preseason, but Zaha looks on fire, so cut him out is going to be the main thing. But with White and Saliba, I don't think it's going to be too much of a challenge.
Yeah, we'll come on to that because they do face a significant challenge, of course, in Wilfried Zaha. King, it's a brand new season, brand new campaign. We've seen changes to the team, change to the setup. There's only been really, I mean, if you think about it, Jesus is obviously the standout addition to the squad. But most of the starting 11, is still the same as it was last season. Are you surprised at how much of a difference the additions of Jesus, Zinchenko, and, of course, the return of Saliba have had on this side?
No, not really, because if you look at Jesus and you look at Zinchenko, they come from probably, if not the best team, one of the best team in the world in Man City, and they've been there for years. They got experience of winning. there are also international players. Jesus plays for Brazil, Zinchenko plays for Ukraine. And we've also seen how good Saliba is when he played for Marseille. He's been so good that he's now a France international player as well. So if you add 3 players to your starting 11, that's probably 20-25% of your starting 11. So if you can improve 20 to 25%, it's good. And we've seen it. The players look sharper, they look physically more fit, and you can see the hunger in the eyes from the players, and that is what I'm more excited about, that they look hungry for this season.
Yeah, it's a really good way of actually putting it if you think about it that way. Adding 3 players to the starting 11 is, you're more than 25% improved in your starting 11 than you was last season. And that's a significant bump for a side of this, a team as good as Arsenal already are. To see another extra, say, 25-30% extra in upgrade added to the team is really important and key to hopefully getting to where we need to be. Kian, when it comes down to our opponents, though, Crystal Palace are a side that we've notoriously come up against in the past and had problems with. Patrick Vieira didn't lose to Mikel Arteta last season, and we were fortunate to get away with just a point from the 2 games. If you remember, Alexandre Lacazette scored that very late goal at the Emirates. They don't have Conor Gallagher this time around, but they have signed a few impressive players. Cheikh Doucouré, of course, is the standout amongst them. Are you fearful of them, or do you now have so much confidence in this new team and so much excitement, as you mentioned, that actually you're kind of just focusing on ourselves?
To be honest, I'm nervous because, again, how many times have we been excited for Arsenal and they've just shot us in the foot? So I'm a bit nervous that way. And it is Palace. I'm like, Zaha always turns up against us because he wants to play for us. Let's put it this way. Gallagher is a huge loss. I actually, even though he's now a Chelsea player, I actually really do like him. I think he's a serious player. So they will miss him a lot. But like Edouard, he's still to show what he can do from what he did at Celtics. So I think Palace are good. It just depends on whether Arsenal go out fighting like they have for the last few friendly games. Will they get nervous and see the crowd and then realize that it is the league and not go out firing straight away like they did in the friendlies? If we do that, I can see it being a huge score towards us. But if not, I could see us drawing, if not losing near the end. But again, it's a good thing that Saliba hasn't conceded yet in an Arsenal shirt. So hopefully with the likes of White and Gabriel and Zinchenko with him, we can keep the clean sheet and try get the 1 or 2 goals, hopefully. And yeah, I think we can win this game.
Yeah, I think we absolutely can. Dan, we look at kind of the areas of most threats for them, and you mentioned a second ago, Wilfried Zaha. He's going up against Ben White and William Saliba. Last time around, it was Cedric at the back with Ben White. It's quite a different pairing, of course, to try and deal with it. A lot more defensively astute, I would say.
It is very, very different. I mean, when we were playing Sevilla, again, it's pre-season, and I think they put out a bit of a second-string team. But when you see just the way that Saliba kind of is so calm and collected and nothing bothers him, and I feel like you could put a Zaha there and Saliba would deal with it. He's quick as well, but he always seems to be in the right position, and that's what I like about him. So I think him being so composed with Gabriel and White either side of him, I think that makes a really good kind of back 3 in a sense when Zinchenko moves forward. So I think it's the perfect shape as well that we play to kind of counteract the other players. And I think I kind of hope that this season is a bit different in the sense that it doesn't matter who we come up against. We play the Arsenal way. And
I see what you
yeah,
did there.
I've done it. I kind of just hope we play the way we want to play, whether it's Palace or whether it's Liverpool. I know I've heard people say that against the big clubs like City, Liverpool, we should go to a 3 at the back. I just disagree with that. I think that the shape that we're going to be playing with potentially Zinchenko and whether it's Tomiyasu or White kind of going into the midfield, I think we need to stick with that and perfect that. Obviously, we can have the plan Bs and plan Cs off the bench, but I think if we stick to that shape, then we'd be able to beat anyone on our day.
Yeah, I think that is the foundation of a really successful side. Is White and Saliba. You mean you can interchange White, Saliba, and Tomiyasu? Those three, I imagine, will interchange that right centre back and right back position, and it's a really strong base. We were a bit concerned, I think, about how little depth we had at right back, but I think White's presence there might put people at ease. Do you think?
Well, seeing White playing at right back in pre-season has kind of made me think, is Tomiyasu getting back in? I'm sure he will in time, but it's such a good dilemma to have. As well as left back, when Tierney's back fully fit, does he get in? But I don't mind do we have one or the other, because they're both quality left backs. It's not last season where if it wasn't Tierney, it was Tavares, who just isn't at that level yet. So I'm very happy to have that depth around the whole. I'd say the whole team. There are areas in our team that might still need a bit of help, but it's definitely improving. And look, we're not going to do everything in one window. There are going to be gaps that are still going to be there come the end of the transfer window. But we've already, if we don't make any other signings, I think we've just improved our team so much with the additions of Jesus, Zinchenko, hopefully Vieira. Obviously, it's difficult to tell about him, but also I just think Saliba as well. I know he's not a transfer signing, but I mean, he's going to improve our team a lot, I think.
Yeah, like a new signing, the famous saying goes, of course. But he genuinely is. Like, he's the closest you can get to that definition, because he was a new signing that we've never played before in a competitive game. So this is going to be his competitive debut 3 years after we signed him.
Well, I think when you compare kind of our transfer window to other teams, then you're not including Saliba in that. And that's why that maybe people think Tottenham's market's been better. But if you were to add Saliba, who, let's say we hadn't signed Saliba, all of a sudden we've signed, a 50 million, 60 million centre-back? I don't know how much it'd be, but adding something like 50, adding someone like that in the team is just a massive improvement. So we signed him 2-3 seasons ago, but to me, this is his first full season. So we'll see what happens.
I think that there's a credit to be had, because if say we'd done a poll, halfway through last season, where Saliba's future was uncertain, there were the interviews, of course, that are out there. He was talking about how happy he was. There was no indication from Arsenal that he was staying. If there was a poll put out to the fan base, I'd be pretty confident in predicting that the majority of people would have said they weren't really confident in him being at the club next season. I don't think that's an unfair statement. I'm sure people may have been confident that he was going back, but I think most people would have said probably that they weren't particularly confident that he would return. And in keeping him, I think that is, in itself a small success for the summer, and showing him that pathway into the team. Have we been fortunate that Tomiyasu isn't available, and so that obviously is there? If Tomiyasu was fully fit, would he be starting this game against Crystal Palace? We don't know. Ultimately, we don't know the answer. But when Tomiyasu does return to full fitness, it will be interesting who goes into that right centre-back spot in the starting lineup for a Premier League game, if indeed, Saliba has been playing and White has been playing. At the moment, I'd probably bet on it being Saliba, considering he is playing in the right centre-back role for the moment, whereas White may have to find a place on the bench or at least in rotation. King, we'll come to you lastly before we go to our lineups that we're hoping to see. Crystal Palace have obviously got a manager in Patrick Vieira that knows everything he can about Arsenal of old, much less so new, despite having 2 very good results against Arsenal during his time at the club. Do you expect Palace to come out with that same intensity they did last time? Or do you think that, having seen how Arsenal have changed in these past 3-4 months, that they may be a little bit more tactically aware than going as gung-ho as they did before?
Well, it's the first game of the season. It's a night game at Selhurst Park. I think the Crystal Palace players are going to be very excited. And Vieira is going to tell them to go in, play physically hard, try and get 2-3 tackles at the first of the game, try and win the 50-50s. But I also think that they're probably going to try and counter-attack a lot, because, they got a lot of pace on the wings, whether it is Olise or Ayew or Saha. From what I've seen from Crystal Palace, they've changed their formation to a double pivot with the new signing of Doucouré, so him and Schlupp kind of play a double pivot, and Esse play in that 10 role. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do, because obviously last year SA was out injured most of the season. The Corey wasn't there, and they had Gallagher, so they have a new formation, and Eze and Saha has looked very well. But I think in general, obviously, they are going to be more cautious. They have seen what we have done. They have seen the additions we've added to the squad, and I mean, even other managers from other teams are talking about Arsenal, and we've never seen that in preseason. Or I shouldn't say never, but we haven't seen that for years. And I just really hope that, all this hype, this excitement, we can bring that. And we are the team that's going to be on the front foot, going to be aggressive. Because I do believe that if we take the game to Palace, we are going to win, because we are a better team than what they are. I honestly believe that.
Absolutely. Regarding injury news, before we go to lineups, of course, Emile Smith-Rowe is not expected to be fit yet. Tomiyasu, Vieira, and Tierney have been back in training. Mikel Arteta has a press conference tomorrow. To my understanding, it's at 12 noon. So usually you can watch along with that. Of course, it will be available to watch back on the Arsenal Way as always as well. So we'll get more clarity on those, but they are all expected to be doubts, and none of those aforementioned players are expected to be anywhere near the starting lineup, at least for Friday's game. So we can go with some certainty into the game, knowing what teams we want. Now, spoiler alert, we have all chosen the same team. That is just pretty common knowledge at this stage. I think most people would choose this team, and it's the team, of course, that we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks against both Chelsea and Sevilla. One of the differences, what we're doing with this season and with the addition of our brand new graphics is having, and to kind of generate some more discussion, is a prediction on who we think the 5-star performance is going to come from in the game. King, we start with you. You've cheated and gone for the obvious pick in Gabriel Jesus, but talk me through how you're feeling about this team right now, and in Jesus in particular.
I mean, for me, I think Jesus have shown in preseason what he will bring to the club, and he's looked amazing. Honestly, technically, he's there. Physically, he's there. Fitness, sharpness, and the aura. And you can see it, whenever he has an opportunity, the first touch is on order. No longer do we have to worry about if our center forward can control the ball, if our center forward can link up, if our center forward is playing DM. Like I said, now we got Jesus. He has the mobility, he has the technical ability as well, and he has something to prove. He wants to show to everyone that he can be the star man. He probably want to show Man City, you know what? You made a mistake to not making me the main man, and this is what you're going to pay for. So I'm really excited to see Jesus. I'm even thinking about making him the captain for the first game. That's how much I believe in him. Yeah, for the FPL.
Interesting. He is in my team. I mean, I'm assuming Kian and Danny's in your fantasy teams as well. I think Drew messaged me the other day saying apparently he holds the record for the most picked player going into a new season. I think something like 71% of people actually have Jesus in their side.
He's at 73 now. It's crazy.
Is it 73? Wow, unbelievable. So yeah, it's quite impressive how much he has taken that, and just so many plaudits, considering how many people said he is a Man City reject, if you remember when he made that move. Quite a lot of people are picking him for their team, so not quite the reject that people originally thought about the player. Let's move forward to, I believe, Kian's is next. It is indeed, and it would be completely uncharacteristic of you not to pick Martinelli. But why do you think that he is going to be the star player for this game?
Yeah, no, I know people are going to be straight away bias, but I just think the way we're pressing at the moment from the front, this guy just runs for days. He's incredible, and I think this season's huge for him as well, to show. Obviously last year with Saka, and near the end it was Eddie, where everyone was praying for Eddie to score goals, but I think this time it's going to be Martinelli's time. He's done very well with the assists for the Sevilla game, and just from the Sevilla game as well, I've noticed Chelsea as well. Every time Ramsdale gets the ball, he looks up to see where Martinelli's staying. He's staying on the line of the halfway line constantly and trying to get over behind the defenders. And I think that'll be huge against Palace as well. I think that's where we could get a goal or two with Jesus and Saka running on. So in my FPL team, I actually have the front three. I think we're gonna get some goals. Hopefully, we will batter them 6-0 like we have Sevilla. But going by my 11, I just want to say I was really, really close to putting Lakanga in instead of Xhaka, but Xhaka was playing so well in pre-season, we have to play him. I think Lakanga is playing very well as well in that 8 role. He got 2 goals in pre-season as well. So I think obviously he was very close that way, but with Xhaka's performances, we had to keep him in there.
And Dan, obviously you have also picked Gabriel Jesus as your star man for this team. Without obviously going into too much of repeating what King said, like, what do you think the impact on the players around him is going to be this season?
I just think he's a winner, so he's going to be bringing that to the team. I don't know if you've watched Arsenal's recent YouTube video. It's like a quick packing challenge.
It's on my watch list. I still need to see it.
It's a bit random, but a little bit. But he won that, and he just, not that makes a difference, but he brings that winning mentality to the team that I think we've been lacking, because not many players in our team have won tournaments or anything really. Whereas where he was at City, he was winning every game pretty much, and I think that's really important to the rest of our players. I think if we were to go 1-0 down, which it's going to be a big test, because obviously last season we struggled to overturn that. I think Jesus will help significantly to kind of go beyond that. I mean, just as well as that, it's the things he does with Saka and Martinelli. It's kind of having 3 forwards. They're also rotational. I saw Jesus coming up to the left, Saka going to the left, Martinelli going through the middle. Everyone's interchangeable, and that is really important, I think. And that's, I think, why Arteta really liked Jesus as well, because he's not just a number 9. He can drift wide, and I think that's also going to be really important. In terms of the rest of the team, I mean, yeah, it speaks for itself. Kind of looking forward to see Ramsdale, the new number 1. And it's just, I'm very excited to watch this team play. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. Like Kean started off the show by saying it's the most exciting he's been for a long time for a new season, and I can't really disagree with that. For me, I've gone for William Saliba. He's going to be playing in that right centre-back spot alongside Ben White and going up against Crystal Palace's biggest threat. And if you can nullify Wilfried Zaha with a team that no longer has Conor Gallagher, yes, Eberechi Eze is certainly one to look out for as well. But I think if you nullify Wilfried Zaha, then you will be able to nullify the main threat of Crystal Palace. And that is what Saliba and White are going to have to do. It would not surprise me if you see Zaha throughout the game switch to the right-hand side, because he may struggle so much with dealing with trying to get past both White and Saliba. Of course, that means then Gabriel and Zinchenko will have to deal with things. I think if Vieira is smart, he may even start Zaha on the right-hand side, because, of course, Zinchenko is much more inclined to push up the field than what White will be. And I think that could be an area that they look to exploit with their attacking players, as I think it will for a number of teams this season. But what I think you notice about the Premier League, though, is the biggest sides mainly have their biggest threat on the left. You think of Spurs with Son. Of course, you think of less so with Liverpool, of course, with Salah, but it doesn't really matter with Liverpool because they've got so many quality players across the front three. You think about Manchester City playing Grealish or Foden, and they've got Julian Alvarez, of course, who is a striker, but can also play on the left-hand side too. There's so many teams that have got that left-sided threat, and White and Saliba and Tomiyasu are going to be coming up against a lot of those this year. And I'm a lot more confident, having someone like Saliba in there to interchange, as we were discussing a little bit earlier on, with Tomiyasu and Ben White across the season. And I'm hoping that our right-hand side is certainly going to be locked down a lot more than the two of Cedric and Holding that, of course, went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last season and were frankly embarrassed by Son and Kane and ultimately led to our demise, unfortunately. We are going to move now to predictions. This is the time for you guys in the chat box to get more interactive. Tell us what scoreline you think we're going to see on Friday, and we'll go through some of your comments as well. We've had a couple of super chats coming too. Crispy Rice, who I know that a lot of people have pointed out in the chat box that says his name is just Chris Price spelt wrong, but I think it's Crispy Rice. I'm just putting that out there. And Innie, he says Palace will struggle with our press, and Innie says, what changes have happened to the Palace team that creates new questions for Arsenal? Of course, Cheick Doucouré being in there is an interesting figure. They haven't, whilst they've had, kind of physical midfielders in the form of Cheick Kouyaté, for instance. This is an interesting player. I don't know loads about him. He's a very ironically Vieira-esque kind of player that they've put into the midfield. So that's going to be intriguing of how he changes things. Elise is injured, I think. I don't think he's going to be available for the game.
He started to train, but he's not going to start the game.
Okay, so that's good to know. Eze is, of course, the other threat. He's been there a while, but did suffer quite a serious injury in the past and only came back towards the end of last season. Striker-wise, they've still got the usual suspects, I think, of Ayew and Benteke, etc., and Edouard and Mateta still there, or has he gone back?
Yeah, he's still there. So they bought him in January. But Edouard has looked a bit better in preseason, but we should be fine. What do you make about Saliba? Watching him during preseason, and I know you were talking about it a bit before, but a lot of people had a lot of energy against the manager because he put him out on loan, but you don't see the same praise now that it seems to be the right decision.
What do you think, Dan?
I think it's exactly the correct decision, because had Saliba come back to the team last season, he wouldn't have had as much game time and he would have made more mistakes. I remember I watched Marseille not a lot, but I've watched highlights, and I saw Saliba made mistakes, and he needed that kind of that year of building maturity. And now in pre-season, we've seen what he's become. And after listening to a few of Tom's shows, you can tell that Saliba has definitely improved since a year ago. And I think, it is exactly the right decision. The only thing is, had we had Saliba last season, you could argue a case that we would have added to the depth, and potentially we might well have finished in the top four, because where we didn't have Holding, maybe we had a Saliba who was almost definitely better than Holding last season.
Maybe we wouldn't have bought White, though, I suppose, if we'd have
potentially
kept Saliba. Yeah.
But the thing with that, it's a risk that you've got to take. And I think Arteta and Edu saw it as a risk that if we loan Saliba out, he'll come back so much better, which will make this season better. And whereas last season with White, we probably didn't need Saliba as much, because he would have just been a third option, essentially.
I don't think we'd be looking at the Saliba that we have right now if we had have kept him. I think
he's in the French national team now, so the levels that he's gained from that loan, and I don't think he would have been the same had he not gone on loan.
And look, I agree.
Go on, King.
I mean, I've watched Saliba probably every game since we bought him, and I watched him a bit before we bought him as well. And as much as I rate him and I really like this guy, he looks better now. Like Saliba, one thing that he was struggling last season was ball watching, and he's taking that out of his game. His positional play is better because he's always been amazing on the ball. He's naturally gifted with his physics and how quick he is. But, as a defender in defending, he is better now. And let's not forget that the Arsenal fan base, Sky Sports, certain YouTube channels, if Saliba came and he played against Brentford and Ivan Toney bullied him, who's going to highlight him? You're going to see Gary Neville. Oh, why did Arsenal let this 18-year-old play? He's not ready for the Prem. And then people start putting this pressure on this kid. So I actually think it was good that he went on loan.
Fair enough. Kian, any thoughts on Saliba before we go to predictions?
Yeah, I just want to add there, like the thought that, when we sent them off, we kind of just said, okay, that's sadly going to be Saliba gone. Like, it says a lot about his mentality. I'm not going to, well, I have to, but Guendouzi, he got sent away as well. The mentality in both players is completely different. Like, Arteta knew that, put it into the same team, and that shows a lot. So if you send off Guendouzi for 11 million, and Saliba goes away and gets Young Player of the Year for the league on with attacking forces of like Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, says a lot about of a player's mentality. To bring him into the Premier League and then start him in friendlies straight away, then if he can go away and get us Champions League football, that says a lot about that player. Like Marseille, when was the last time Marseille were in the Champions League? I'd say it's been a while. So if you look in that, and with the defensive record that they've had with Saliba, I'm delighted he's here. Let's go.
Again, I mean, on the Guendouzi thing, you know, the difference is obviously things went on behind the scenes with Guendouzi, with the manager that we know about, and some of the things we don't know about. He went away. Saliba, of course, spoke quite outwardly, you know, in response to being told that he wasn't ready. You know, you could tell there was frustration there. You could tell he was irritated by what happened to him. You could tell it being a £27 million signing that he thought he was going to get more opportunities sooner. But the fact that he has come back, despite saying those things, and not only integrated himself into the team, but Arteta has clearly shown that there is a pathway back for you. Even if, say, you sway away from the path maybe slightly, you can get yourself back if you're willing to do what is required. And that is the job of a manager at the end of the day, is making sure all the players fall in line with what he's asking for. And if they don't, you move them on, you be ruthless, and you keep a squad that's going to take you in the right direction. Let's
and to
go
be honest,
through
sorry, Tom, just to add there as well, like that's why I'm excited about Tavares now as well, to see what he does, because obviously that mistake against Liverpool, I'm looking forward to seeing what's his mentality, because when we signed him, didn't they say where do we get him from again? That Benfica, yeah, they said that his mentality is shocking, that he wanted first team football, and that he wasn't happy with the first choice, and that's why he left. So I'm interested now.
I wouldn't describe that as shocking mentality, to be honest. It's a bit of a strange, wasn't it?
No,
so
but
I get it could be described as arrogance, I suppose. But you know, he's gone to Marseille, and from all intents and purposes, feedback I've heard from a couple of Marseille contacts of mine I got whilst covering Saliba there, that they are very impressed with the step up that they've had from Jordan Amavi and of course Sead Kolasinac they've had at the club. We'll go through some of the predictions from the chat, and then we'll get it from our guests as well. Samuel Laston says 3-0 to the Arsenal. Thanks, VDub, for the compliment, and 2-0 to the Arsenal in terms of a prediction. Sam Lowe says 3-1 Arsenal, with it being 1-1 at half-time. Troy says 0-0, but asking Arsenal to prove him wrong. Jacob says 3-1 to the Arsenal. Vander says 5-0 Arsenal. That would be absolutely fantastic to see. Matt Thornton going for a 3-1. Josh going for a 3-0. Gimbertals going for a 4-1, Arsenal. And Temi going for a very optimistic 12-0 to the Arsenal. Kian, do you want to try and top that in terms of optimism? Because you said 6-0 a second ago.
No, that was a joke, let's be honest. But to be fair, I do think that we're going to set a statement. I think this is the biggest game that can set the statement, especially the last few seasons when we've got embarrassed by Palace, let's be honest. So I think 2-0, 3-0, and yeah, I'll be delighted with that. Happy days.
Scorers?
On the break, Martinelli on the break, and I'm going to go Jesus. I think Jesus is going to fire one from outside the box. Let's go.
Lovely stuff. Johan says 3-1 Arsenal. Olu says 5-2 Arsenal. Harvey says 4-0. I'm hoping that's to the Arsenal. Same with DJ Jackie B. 3-1. Josh going 3-0 Arsenal. Paul going 3-1 Arsenal. Zeus going for a 2-0 with a Jesus brace. Dan, what are you going for?
Very quickly on Kian. I don't think Jesus has ever scored outside the box. So if that happens, then that would be quite something.
It's like a Coquelin screamer all over again.
Or the Cedric screamer, yeah. I think I'm going to go for 3-0, kind of do a bit of revenge, especially on Friday night, the opener. We have to make a statement. Shut up all those Tottenham fans. It would be amazing if we came back with a good win. And I think the goal scorers are going to be Gabby, and Gabby.
Gabby. I love it. Yes. If that ever happens, genuinely, it will. The greatest day ever.
I remember you used to have, I think there was one game and Xhaka, Saka and Laka scored.
Yeah.
Which was quite something. So it will happen. It's just whether it's this game or not, but I'm going for it. I like
Xhaka,
Samir's
Laka, and
lot.
Saka are more likely though, because none of them are defenders, and Gabriel scoring, of course, is a more
He
of a
scores
challenge.
a lot of headers. I like
He does.
Samir's
The highest
optimism.
scoring defender in the Premier League last season. Interesting stat, which I'm sure King knows of all of his FPL knowledge. Ron going for a 3-1 to the Arsenal. Bazza going for a 4-0, hopefully to the Arsenal. Steve Stone says 2-1 Arsenal. MJ10 says 3-1 Arsenal. Greg says 4-1 to the Arsenal. Paul says 2-0 Arsenal. And Brad says 3-1 with Jesus and Saka scoring. King, give me a prediction, my son.
I'm going for 3-1 Arsenal. I think Saha will get his goal. He always seems to score against us, unfortunately. But I do think we're going to win quite comfortable. I think Jesus scores 2 and Saliba scores 1 in his first game.
Oh, you know he didn't score a single goal.
I know he didn't score a single goal for Marseille, and he didn't score in preseason either. But he almost scored, and I just have a feeling it's one of them nights where everything's just gonna go beautiful for Arsenal.
He did score one for Marseille that got ruled out right at the end of the season, I think. Yeah. And I don't think it was. Was it a bit of a strange one as well?
PSG?
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it might have been
VAR ruled
PSG,
it out. Yeah.
And
I remember.
I remember him celebrating and running away, going like this, and remember that picture being used a lot. Ronnie Pickering says 3-0. I think there's fluidity in goals in this team. Crispy Rice says 2-0 clean sheet. Afsar says 0-0. Afsar's going for a 3-1 defeat. Unbelievable negativity. Rob Red says 3-2 Arsenal with a Jesus hat-trick. Back-to-back hat-tricks. Mr. Tesh says 6-0 Arsenal. Again, another Jesus hat-trick prediction. Lovely to see. And plenty more predictions coming in that I'll highlight as we round off today's show. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in and listening. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. Kian, thank you for your time, my friends. Tell people where they can find you.
Cheers, Sam, for having me. Dan, King, always a pleasure. Obviously Twitter, Kian, or Reardon_Kian. But yeah, if you want any Martinelli bias, I'm here. I'll definitely be on again. Look forward to the big season. It's huge. And I'm, again, as I said, I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to King beating King in FPL as well. It should be fun.
Lovely stuff. Dan, tell people where they can find you, my friend, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, although I don't really do it. But Discord, you can find me. You can also find me on King's Football Show at some point tonight, if that happens, where I'll be arguing my case about Haaland not doing so well. Lacazette being
you're just going to try Lacazette,
yeah.
Unbelievable.
So if you're interested, come to King's Show.
Brilliant. King, I was about to say, tell me where you can find you. Dan's done it for you, but do give your channel a shout out, of course.
Yeah, thank you, King. First, thank you, Dan.
Whoa, I mean, fair enough. If you want to call me the King, that's fine.
I was gonna say thank you for having me on your show. You know, it's always a pleasure, and I also have to big you up. Honestly, the content, the graphic, it looks amazing, and you just going to the top, Tom. Honestly, just continue what you're doing. It's amazing. And yeah, guys, I finally have a channel. It's King's Football Show. It's gonna be a lot of FPL content. I will do some football shows as well, but it's gonna be a lot of FPL content, a lot of banter. So please tune in. I'm gonna try and do a show with Dan as well. If we can make it today, we will for sure. I'm going to speak with him in the background. But yeah, thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Lovely stuff. Make sure you go and subscribe. Say it one more time, Kings. Know where to find it. King's Football Show. Yeah,
King's Football Show. It's right there. You can see the King's Football Show. And I'm on, that's the same name I have on Twitter and on Instagram now as well. So King's Football Show.
How many subscribers have you started on already? How many have we got?
I think I'm on 68, and I've only been on YouTube for 2 or 3 weeks. So again, the TGT
family.
There's
800 of you watching in here right now. Let's get King up to 100 subs. King Football Show. Let's get him up to 100 subs. Come on, people. Let's show that support to one of our fantastic contributors to the channel, King Football Show. Plenty of content coming, especially if you enjoy fantasy football, which I do now have to address for the 100th time. Jabu says, please share the TGT Fantasy League. Need to add my team, Jabu. I have said this so many times, but if you go to the link tree in the description down below, it will take you to our link tree page, and on that page is an auto join link for the Fantasy League. I don't know how many times I've said it, but I've said it a million times. I've commented it a million times. I've tweeted it a million times. It's in the description. Click the link. It is there.
Actually, sorry, on that, Tom, are we allowed Spurs players? Are we letting people Spurs players this year?
I mean, I haven't, because
I haven't either.
Personal pride. I don't do it. I don't pick Spurs players. Dan, have you been as
I haven't, but King has picked 2, 3.
To be fair, King is a competitive FPL player.
Yeah. So I always say this, when it comes to FPL, before I used to play just for fun and I didn't pick Spurs players. But now I play it to win it, and I'm also doing content on it. So I have to be non-biased. But for me, it's like if I pick Harry Kane and he doesn't score and Spurs lose,
it's a win-win.
I'm more happy than I pick him and he scores and I get points, if that makes sense.
I think you've justified your reasoning, King. Fair enough. He does produce content. He does need to stay level-headed. So if you want some level-headed discussion around fantasy football, make sure you go and subscribe to King's Football Show. I'll definitely put a link to that in the description as well after that, if you send that to me after the show finishes, King.
Tom,
yes, Dan.
One more thing. Where is the link for the FPL league?
Honestly, right. Hold on, let's just get rid of Dan. There we go. Lovely stuff. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Where is the code, people? Where is it? Tell the people where it is.
In the link tree.
In the link tree. Thank you. Okay, good stuff. Brilliant. And I'll also leave a link in the live chat box to King's show if you haven't already gone and subscribed. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m, keeping you up to date with all the latest Arsenal transfer news. Fingers crossed there'll be some more positive stuff, with there being, hints that things might be stepping up towards the end of the summer window, but it's most likely we go into this Crystal Palace game with the team and the squad that we have right now. And to be honest, I think from the predictions we've seen from the guys and from you lot in the chat box, there is an air of real optimism about Arsenal this season that I'm looking forward to see, hopefully, being delivered upon. We will see you again very, very soon. Thank you for listening. And as always, up the Arsenal.